Hey guys, Jim Bounds at Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and Janie and I just did a fence line ride over to the eastern shack, which would be called the beach house. It's beautiful here today. It's hot, it's sunny, and I love it. I got up this morning at dawn and rode the bicycle. It's great. Well, listen, wanted to talk a minute. Here recently, I've been sitting back because it's been hot inside, you know. In the evenings, you know, you guys up north, when it's cold, really cold, in the middle of the winter, what do? You go inside and you play parcheesi or something, right? And then you come out. Well, same thing in Florida. When it's stupid hot, and it does get stupid hot, you go inside. You find air conditioning. The American way, air conditioning. And then in the evenings you go do something. I mean, that's how it is. And so I've been spending a lot of time sitting around. I've been watching lurking, if you want to call it, Facebook, and there have been a lot of threads, and I'm very excited. There's been a lot of talk about alternators, one-wire alternators, why, who, what, where, and the comments are all over the field, and it's great because it's got ideas. People are thinking. To that end, I want to keep this going. I want to talk to you guys, you ranch hands and others, about this specifically and get it out of some of the politics and things like that, because it is a very, very good thread. There's a lot of things to talk about. One of the ones, the alternators. Now, first, Billy, and you know the Billy I'm talking about. We all know Billy. Billy called me up and said, Jim, I'll send you some money and I'll buy you a big screen if you'll stop using that dang iPad. I'm sorry, Billy. We're going to get better, I promise. All the pictures will be down at the bottom for now. Shoot, I'm going to get me a green screen. I'm going to have the picture back here. All right? Just because you said something. Thank you. Alternators. Some guy said he's not worried about it when it breaks down. It's a normal alternator. Everybody has it. Don't take that risk. Had a guy pick up his coach. Took a day and a half to find an operating alternator out on the road. When you get on the road, seriously, you need to have an extra alternator because it's a mission critical system, and you can bring one with you. And now that we're doing this one-wire stuff, you don't need to worry about anything, because if you spin that alternator, it's going to spit out 12 volts. Gentlemen, you want a second alternator with you when you leave. Period. Exclamation mark. End of sentence. And I seriously suggest that you go to an alternator starter rebuilder and have them rebuild you. Have them remanufacture with all new parts, the best parts possible, because he's not going to buy junk if he's right there in a shop, a neighborhood shop. He's not going to buy junk. He's going to buy the better, not the 25-cent part, but the 75-cent part. And you want that 75-cent part. So on alternators, you do not want to rely on the normal parts source out there. Chances are you will not find a one-wire alternator. You're going to have to use a three-wire alternator. And if your trigger circuit, that 38-inch piece of nichrome wire, if that trigger circuit is burnt or there's a problem with it, as was the coach that I drove to Denver, we got an hour out, we got into Gainesville, the alternator took a dump. It took us an extra day using Uber to find the only man in town that knew what I was talking about and made me the alternator that we got home with. We were lucky that time. Kit was lucky this time. Okay? He was lucky this time. Dawson was lucky that first time. I was with him. Okay? I was lucky. Don't get out on a thin limb with alternators. Now, it's not just the alternator. This battery isolator right here. 3-wire fin thing. You see it? Okay? This 3-wire fin thing goes out. they just fail. And you say, well, why do they fail? I don't know. Some guy says, well, I've had mine forever, and it's just beautiful. Well, that's fine. But when it fails, again, the party is over. When you cannot charge your battery, the party is over. And having a diode in line to charge your battery all the time, which pulls a considerable amount of the charge, so your battery will never get fully charged. If you're using one of these bluefin things in your coach, you are not getting full benefit of whatever alternator you have. Period. Exclamation marks, end of sentence, drop the mic. By the way, I don't have a mic on right now because we're at the line shack. So just bear with me on the sound, it'll be better next time. This alternator thing, do not rely, have another one. Let's move on, I've said enough. The Isolator, I strongly suggest, at bare minimum, go out to your coach and the 3 wires on this thing. Okay, one of the wires goes to the vehicle battery positive. The center wire is your alternator wire. And look at that, after 50 years, there's still a white tag on it. It's amazing. But the center wire goes directly to your alternator. These two split the power. One is to your living area, the other one would be to your engine. Trace the wire that goes to that vehicle battery positive terminal right there. Okay? And take your positive lead and put that one on the alternator lead. This one goes to the vehicle battery positive. Yours may be the top. Don't just say the bottom one. But if this is the vehicle battery positive, take it off and put it on the center terminal. Why? Because for the current to flow from here to here pulls about 25% of your charge capacity. So if you take the wire off here and put it here, you'll charge better, and you're not relying on this battery isolator to charge your battery. Mission critical, remember that? We want to get rid of this thing. All right? Another thing that had been brought up, guy brought up, here's your boost solenoid right here. Again, these pictures will be at the bottom. This is your boost solenoid right here. And this wire coming up the front from all GM floor plan coaches, or most coaches, the later models all, there's a 2-gauge wire connected right here to this boost solenoid on the left side. The right side is your engine electrical system. The left side is your your living area electrical system, right? This cable goes down to the cross member in the front, and it goes over to the driver's side, it goes up, and then it goes into the coach. All right? This 2-gauge wire connects the living area electrical system, in other words, the fuse box halfway down the coach, and your generator, all hooks it together. Very important cable, and it could be asked sometimes to carry a lot of current. I'm describing a 75 and after, 75, 6, 7, and 8. If you have a 3 or 4, in 73, GM had no provisions to charge the generator, the APU, auxiliary power unit generator. It had its own battery, and it had a small charger, and it'd keep it going. But you had to use it to charge it. So in the early days, they ran an 8-gauge wire just back there to charge that battery. They didn't even think about using the rear battery as a living area. They used the front one. After that, they said, well, wait a minute, we don't like that. They went then to the 2-gauge wire so they could share power from the rear battery or the front battery, took the living area battery out of the front and hooked the living area to the rear battery. You follow what I'm saying here? So this cable ended up being a really, really important cable, and they made it 2-gauge, and it was all good and well and good. But the problem is, this cable goes down. This one has an original, somebody put split loom on it, original, which had to have been a later model. because most of you guys will see a red cable coming up. It looks about like the interior of that nasty looking thing. And it goes down, it goes across the top of the cross member on metal clamps, eyelet clamps, and goes up. And then you see more split loom and goes into the coach. Now I say this is a 78 because this, somebody got smart, and this had to have been a late model because there is split loom and it's taped all the way at the top, which is pretty amazing. All right? They didn't do that factory because most of the split loom stopped over there on the driver's side when it came out of the firewall. And that wire was open to air, whatever, heat, dirt, and the insulation, as you see, went bad. Please take a piece of 3/4 inch heater hose, rubber heater hose. Disconnect that cable at the cable clamps and put the clamp back on the frame. Then take that 3/4 inch heater hose, slit it all the way down, make a sleeve, and cover that cable all the way from where it hits the boost solenoid right there, all the way from there, all the way across, and all the way over to the firewall. Wrap it with the heater hose. That's an insulator. And then take a tie wrap and tie wrap the cable with the heater hose around it back to those cable clamps that it was originally in. That way it's still in the same place, people will look for it, but it's insulated very well. And if yours is really nasty, I mean it looks corroded and it looks just like bad wire, probably is. What you do is cut the cable where it comes out of the firewall on the driver's side. Put a single 2-gauge connector, just like the vehicle battery positive. Single connector sticking out, insulator on the wiper motor bracket. You'll see there's a flat space there. So you can cut the good wire, put a connector on it, and put it on that eyelet. And then run a new 2-gauge wire from that eyelet down, across, insulate it with the 3/4 inch heater hose, 3/4 inch heater hose, insulate the new wire up and connect it right there. This is so important, critical important. If that thing shorts out, if that wire insulation shorts out on those cable clamps or anywhere, that's a smoke test, baby. Please, let's deal with this. All right? If you think, you look at our wiring electrical system and you go, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's so complicated, and you start trying to chase it. You think that's complicated. I never realized how complicated a tube is. Electronic tube, look at all that stuff that's in a tube. And if you think our wiring diagram is complicated, how about an RCA radio? Compared to that, ours looks real easy. You know what I mean? Real easy. And if you see in this picture, they're using the boost solenoid right there. That's the electrical drawing for the battery boost solenoid as the key ingredient where you can check both sides, living area and electrical. Okay? So in this diagram, you're going to see that battery isolator. Now think about, I just told you to take that one terminal off and put it at the center, which makes the vehicle battery positive feed power, because that's constant, to the alternator all the time. And that's what a one-wire alternator needs. It needs to see power all the time to operate. Our 3-wire alternator does not see power on the center terminal when it's just sitting there. That's the difference in a 1-wire and a 3-wire. That 2-wire connector over on the side is part of the regulator. It's not part of the alternator. It's part of the regulation system, okay, in the trigger system. When you put in a 1-wire alternator, everything in the coach that's having to do with the trigger system is now internally in the alternator. I wanted to explain this because on the Facebook it was kind of confusing as to what People were putting different things out. Why is this and that? The trigger circuit that was used from 78 and before in all GM systems causes an issue. A 38-inch long wire causes an issue charging mini batteries or hard charging. You want to disconnect that circuit. The way you do it is unplug that alternator. Don't use the connector anymore. It won't be needed because that's part of the regulator circuit. Have your alternator remanufactured at a starter alternator dealer as a one-wire alternator. That replaces all the stuff in the coach. And the alternator self-excites. In other words, you put 12 volts to it, you spin up. As soon as the voltage coming out of that alternator is higher than the voltage it sees coming into it, boom, it turns on. And that's a great thing. That's what we need. This is the battery primary wiring circuit. These large cables, primary wiring. Corrosion is what we fight. One day it works, you go out the next time it doesn't. How can that be? I've heard so many of those things about people coming up in the spring, getting their coaches out of storage. It worked fine before, but now, blah, 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 blah. Corrosion is a big deal. Every one of the large connector wires, you need to loosen whatever the connector is on it. At bare minimum, wiggle those wires, if not take them off and kind of sand them and put them back together. Every one of the large gauge wires. Why? Because at 50 years, even if you did it 5 years ago, corrosion starts. You can't stop it. You can't stop rust, no matter what you do. At least it seems like it. From the fall to the summer, corrosion could have been a problem. And your primary wiring system has to pass current. And you have to have good purchase on a connection for current to flow. So when you have a problem, a lot of folks go up on Facebook and say, this problem, this. Well, it's good that you go right to Facebook and ask the question because the answers can be very, very simple. And it might even fix it. Go tighten the connections. You know, stuff like that. If you do enjoy Facebook, there are a lot of positive things, I just choose not to stay away from it. But if you did choose that and you want to throw something up on there, try to do some preliminary testing to see what the problem might be before you go up, because the trolls love to get on there and just rake people up about silly questions. So I would do a little investigation before you do that. Clean all your connections. All right. Thanks for your time. If this is helpful, and if this is part of the ongoing saga of one-wire alternators and sim-like ACR 160s, which, by the way, will replace this. And anytime you can replace a mission-critical system is a good thing. ACR 160 also replaces that battery isolator I was talking about. The 3-wire thing, this baby, it also replaces that. It's newer technology. Look into that. SEMLAC, SEMLEX, ACR-160. Look it up. Go online and get some information on things yourself before you go and ask some other guys. Right? Call me. Ask me. I'm happy to tell you. That's what I do. Folks call me and say, Jim, gosh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're not interrupting, man. You're doing what I want you to do. You want to give me a call. Now, this summer, we've not just been sitting around answering the phone and having a beer. We've been doing something else, and you're going to hear about it pretty soon. Can't say anything about it yet, but you guys have seen this, and you guys have wanted me to get you some t-shirts and have them available. Well, I'm throwing my gutter balls right now, gentlemen. This is our new logo, and this is a gutter ball. This is the less than perfect one. And just like bowling and just like window tinting, silk screening is the same thing. Stay tuned. You'll hear more about it. Thanks for your time. See you next time.